Okay, so here's the reality. You can't control what's happening all around you right now. Fear is everywhere. So what are you going to do? Are you going to let it beat you? No, you're going to get up. You're going to make the decision every day to control what you can control, starting in your mind. It's time to vaccinate yourself against life's greatest phobias. It's time to find a cure for the fear virus, and that cure starts now.
Starts now. How many of you all remember when you were little kids watching TV and seeing all of these scary movies? And then it's like you never take a shower at night by yourself, right? Because you're afraid somebody will come in. You never go out in the woods at night because there's animals out there. There's creatures out there. And you get so afraid of them. A gentleman once told a story about how his son was 6 years old. And he had a friend come over, and they lived out kind of in the country with some woods behind them. And the little boy said, "Hey, can my friend stay the night with me?" And he says, "Well, yeah, sure. You can do that." So the day came and he spent the night with him. His son says, "Hey, can we go out in the woods?" And the little boy looks up at the father. The one little friend looked up at the dad, and he says, "Is there wolves in the woods? Is there snakes in the wood?" And the father looks at the little boy and he says, "Yeah, there's wolves, there's snakes, but they won't bother you." And he says, "But you don't understand. I'm not the bravest little boy. I'm afraid of snakes and wolves." So many times we allow our fears to control us. So many times what ends up happening is we don't get to enjoy things because we're so afraid. But let me say this to y'all. Fear, it's everywhere. And what ends up happening is, with this fear, it's always speaking into your ears. Little voices that are saying things to you. Afraid of this, or you're afraid of that. There's a gentleman that's got a new book out. It's called The Fear Virus. And in this book, he speaks of 6 fears that are rampant. No matter who you are, you end up facing these 6 fears. One is the fear of the future. You sit down and you make plans, but you think about right now. Just this week, the National Pediatric Society said it is okay for kids to go back to school in the fall. That, as a matter of fact, kids need to be in school in the fall. Because kids that don't get that social learning and that social aspect are going to end up with issues and problems. You and I may be able to handle those problems and those issues, but those kids need that as part of their social development. Later on in life, they'll have issues that they don't. So that's what they fear. Children that's going to grow up in a society that's going to have a lot of issues and problems. So they're saying, "Okay, let's go." So the president comes up and says, "Okay, we're all going to do this." And then everybody says, "Hold on a minute. We're spiking. You need to shut everything back down. Don't tell kids that they can go to school. And so what happens? The National Pediatric Society says we need to backtrack what we said. One day you can, another day you can't. One day they were telling you don't wear a mask, and the next day they were saying you better wear a mask. One day they were saying it's okay to go back out and socialize in the bars, but they never ever said you can't stop protesting. Which is right and which is wrong. So what's the future going to look like? We're all sitting here every day wondering, what's the future going to be? We don't know. We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. Are they going to shut back down again? Or are they going to open up more? How many more deaths? Can I share a little fact with you all? With all of the coronavirus and everything that's hitting New York and everything else, how many deaths have you heard? How many deaths they've had? 7. 7. 7 deaths in the last 2 days. When they were having tens of thousands of people dying. And so they're saying, hold on a minute. Everybody's getting this. Well, hold on a minute. Isn't that what they wanted everybody to do for herd immunity? They wanted everybody to catch it so we would all get the antibodies so that we could all fight this disease. Now everybody's getting it. Hold on, we better shut down. So we have this fear of the future. We also have a fear of commitment. For instance, we going to go to work tomorrow? I don't know. I'm working from home, so who cares? You know? Or you say, hey, right now I can't make any commitments because I don't know where I'm going to be. I don't know what my life's going to be. I don't know if I'm going to get this or not get this, or I don't know if it's going to affect me or I don't affect me. So right now, we have the most uncommitted people in my life that I've ever seen. And they use this, I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, so I can't commit to anything. So we have that. We have the fear of failure. If I try something, I may not work out. Can I say this to you? If you never try anything, guess what? You will never fail. If you try something, guess what you're going to happen once in a while? You're going to fail. You try getting up in the morning, you set your clock, you got good intentions. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get up at 5:30 tomorrow morning, and I'm going to start my morning off with Jesus and my coffee. Some of y'all. Some of the rest of us that have sense is just going to do Jesus. He's my caffeine, you know. But anyway, I'm going to get up at 5:30 in the morning. 5:30 hits. What do? We tell Alexis to shut things down. Hit the snooze button for me, Alexis, or Google or whatever. Or you got an old-fashioned clock and you just hit that sucker. You turn it off. You had good intentions. And then what happens? You roll out of bed about 6:30, 7 o'clock, and you say, I failed. I really meant to do this morning, God, but I failed. And so the rest of the day, you're beating yourself up. And the whole rest of the day is a waste for you because you feel so bad. I failed. Get up. Don't let the enemy make you stay there. You've got the fear of failure. How about the fear of loneliness? Especially now. more than ever. You can't visit your families. You can't visit loved ones. People, your grandchildren don't want to come around because you're old. You're old and we don't want to hurt you. And I understand that, okay? And that's what they're telling you. But what's happening is this loneliness, ladies and gentlemen, is becoming an epidemic of epic proportion. People are feeling like they're all by themselves. There's also the fear of death. What if I get this? Even though I'm in this age that I'm okay, and it's not as many of us are going to die, but I don't know about y'all, but I've been seeing children die of it. I've been seeing young adults die of it, teenagers die of it, people in their 30s and 40s who one day thought they were in absolutely excellent health, got diagnosed one day and dead the next. Or people who just thought they had a cold. And we never know. We don't know. So we're fear of that. And then the last fear is the fear of God. So many times people have been told to be afraid of God, fear God. And may I say this, that fear has permeated society. It has gotten into the Christian life. I'm afraid if I do something wrong, God's going to destroy me. Sometimes even the church has taught people, if you do this, you're going to hell. So they do nothing. That is not what God said. May I say this to you all? And I'm not trying to belittle things, but if committing adultery sends you to hell, David's gone. If murdering someone sends you to hell, David's gone. If cursing sends you to hell, Peter ain't there. If denying Christ sends you to hell, Peter ain't there. If telling a lie sends you to hell, Abraham, Jacob, Isaac, and Esau, none of those guys are there. David ain't there either. So they all fear God's going to send them to hell because they do things. And I'm not belittling them. I'm just saying this, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a child of God, you are going to sin. And may I say this to you, God has no big sin or little sin. It is all sin. All of it. So don't let Satan say you're a failure because you committed a big sin. We all sinned. But we're also a child of God. We're forgiven. And so we begin with these things. So a lot of times, think about it. Why do we eat the right foods and work out? Huh? We fear death. If I eat the right foods and if I work out, I'm going to live longer. Tell that to the guy who was the trainer for The Biggest Loser. Bob? He had a heart attack. He was one of the fortunate ones who lived. He ate right. He worked out. He had the regimen up. Let me say this to you. Eating right and working out doesn't necessarily guarantee you're going to live longer than anybody else. It may help you, okay? And I'm not saying don't eat right and don't work out, okay? As you can see, I'm a specimen of working out. And eating right, you know? Can I talk about a fear of failure? Every week, I go through the same routine, wondering, is this sermon going to work or not, Lord? What if it bombs? What if I said the wrong thing? What if I made a mistake? What if I said that what popped into my mind every time, this sermon would be going every which direction? But you got to understand, there are times that I walk out of here after a sermon and think that was the worst sermon you have ever delivered. And somebody will write me a text or send me a message and will say, thank you, I needed those words. And then I realize, good, because it wasn't me saying them. Because if it was me saying it, it would have been a failure. But it's what God was saying. And so many times you look at these things, you look at things, you fear, for instance, our culture. There's an old saying that this country is going to hell in a handbasket. And you look at what's happening. As we were talking, I posted on Facebook this week, I have never seen a divided country as I have today. We are being divided any which way. We are so divided. Our history, who to believe, who not to believe. What should I do? What shouldn't I do? And everybody's just wondering, so what do we do? So in 2 Timothy 1:7, I already read for you. But I want to go back and just grab the very first portion of this verse. For God has not given us a spirit of fear. Now, when you look at this word of fear or spirit of fear, if you were to look at this word in the Greek, you would read the word, for God has not given us phobias. This is where we get our word of phobia. From the Greek word, spirit of fear. So what's he saying? For instance, when we talk about the fear of God, it's not about running around scared all of the time. When we talk about the fear of God, it's talking about submission. When God says, I need you to do this, you don't say, hold on a minute, I can't do this because you don't understand. I'm not qualified. I can't sing. I can't draw. I don't know how to tell them, people the story. I don't know enough of the Bible, Lord. I can't do this. Instead, we should say, fear of God is submitting, which basically says, okay, God, what is it you want me to do? If this gets done, you've got to understand, this isn't me doing this. And he's saying, now you understand. I'm not asking you to do it. I'm asking you to submit to me and allow me to work through you to do it. So that in everything you do, give glory to God. But we're afraid. You tell me to do something, I'm going to fail. When we fear God, ladies and gentlemen, may I say this to you? When we fear God, we have nothing to fear. Do you understand? When we fear God, we have nothing to fear. Why? He's in control. Not me, not you. He is. And may I say this to you? When we fear God, we have nothing to fear. If you don't fear God, you have everything to fear. Because you're in control. And may I say this to you? What can you control? Have a family that today is dealing with the loss of their only son. He left the house in the morning and they thought they would see him later until he was involved in an accident and dead. And that is one of the most tragic things of a parent, is to get a call or a visit that says, I'm sorry, but your child has been killed in an accident. Could you control the accident? I mean, just read the newspapers. 3 young girls, young ladies, not young, in their 20s, early 20s. One was 19, one was 21 or 23, another one was 27, 29. Not very familiar with the roads out in Butler, Preble County. Have been drinking. Come upon a stop sign that they weren't aware of because they were speeding, a little inebriated, went through the stop sign. A guy's pickup was driving, he was driving. The speed limit there is 55 miles an hour. Hit him in the side, driver's side, killed the driver, and killed the passenger. They never dreamed that that would be their last day together. Can you control it? When you go out and get in your car, can you guarantee me that every time you get in your car and you go home, that you're going to go back home that night? If you can, I want to ride with you. You see, if you don't have God, you've got everything to fear. I can't tell you how many times that I've been out driving and my mind begins to wonder. I didn't see the red light. I didn't see the stop sign. But somebody told me to stop. Is God. It wasn't me. So let's talk about some phobias. How many of you in here have, it's called acrophobia? Do you know what it is? Huh? No, that's arachnophobia. Acro. ACROPHOBIA. I don't know. but I think I got it. It's called the fear of flying. Linda does not have the fear of flying. She's the one that posts these things like dropping something from 30 stories high and going out and spinning and saying, oh, I'll do that in a moment. I posted this one thing about people walking across this ledge on these little things, and all you're hanging on is like a little cord. And if you fall, the problem is, who's going to come get you? Because I'm telling you what, if I'm on those things and I'm falling and I'm stuck between them, I ain't getting up. And don't come cut the rope. Because I'll guarantee you I'll take you with me. All I can say is if you're coming to save me, you better have a needle to put me out first. Because I'll be so afraid. Okay? There is arachnophobia, which is the fear of spiders. Okay? There is, it's called penthrophobia, P-E-N-T-H-E-R-A, P-H-O-B-I-A. Do you know what that is? Fear of mother-in-laws. There is another one. It's called gamophobia, G-A-M-O-P-H-O-B-I-A. Do you know what that one is? That's the fear of marriage. Fear of marriage. There are some that have check your phonophobia. It's like, did I just miss a message? Did I just miss a message? Oh, did they answer me back yet? Oh, I got 16 notices. You know, it's like, okay, I got 16 notices. I got to find out who was that. You know, and when was it? Oh man, it was 30 seconds ago. I better respond to this. You know, and so we're constantly checking our phone. It's called check-a-phonophobia, okay? And then there's another one that's called FOMO, F-O-M-O. Do you know what that is? It's called the fear of missing out. This is why we are so tethered to this. It's like we got this thing posted to our forehead so that every once in a while I can slide it like this and see it. And then I'll put it back up here. That's the next thing they're going to come up with, is a chip or something that can read your phone and put it in your ears for you. They've already got it, you know that. You can have it all transmitted straight to you so you don't have to check it. But can I share something with you? This word, fear of God or phobias, is only mentioned one time in the Bible. Here in 2 Timothy, chapter 1, verse number 7. And when you look at it, it says, God has not given you a phobia. So all of these phobias that you have, ladies and gentlemen, they are not from God. Rather, what has He given you? He has given you the spirit of power, love, and sound mind. Now, some of y'all, we question the sound mind stuff yet. Okay? I have been questioned whether I have a sound mind for a long time. Okay? I understand that. But I am here to say I have evidential proof that I have a sound mind, because it tells me so in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse number 7, that God has given me a sound mind. So whether you think I have it or not, God gave it to me. I'm just trying to say to you, when somebody comes up and tells you, what are you thinking? Hey, I'm of God and he's given me a sound mind. That's what I'm thinking. You just don't recognize it yet. Hey, I'm trying to give you excuses. How many of you all have ever tried to jump a car? Huh? I'm not trying to talk about running and jumping over the car. I'm talking about trying to jump a car that doesn't start. I told you I have a sound mind. Why would I ask you how many of you have tried to jump a car? That is stupid. So you tried it? We need to talk after church. Okay, how many of you ever have tried to jump a car? How did you do it?
The wrong way once.
You have basically a lot of times a red cable and a black cable, right? One is positive and one is negative. And so what you try to do is, let me say this to you all. Maybe I'll say it to you. And that is this. It doesn't really matter which one you put on the positive and the negative. You can put the black one on the positive if you want, and the red one on the negative if you want. But there is a reason that they have them color-coded. Because most of the time, your battery cables will have some type of a color on it, most of the time the red one. So they're saying, okay, here, we're going to try and make this as idiot-proof as we can. We're going to try to make this as idiot-proof as we can. So you first start with putting the red cable on the positive terminal on your battery, right? And then you've only got one cable left and you have one terminal left, so you put that one on there, which is generally the black. Now let me say this to y'all. Don't ever pick up the cables and rub the other end of the cables and kind of rub them together. It kind of like sparks, okay? But here's another thing that you do not want to do, and that is this. Pick up the other end of the cable, and who cares which one you put it to? Because I'm going to tell you something. If you put the positive cable from the car that's running to the negative cable on the car that you're trying to start, and the negative cable from the other car that you're running to the positive cable of the car that you're trying to start, I will see you in the hospital. You did it once. You want to tell her what happens? It's not a good thing. It kind of messes with your mind. Your life flashes in front of you, and you think the Almighty has come. It is like a big boom, boom. Yeah, it's no fun. It also has a tendency to kind of like fry your car. The electrical stuff, you know, and jumping your car can cost like a $6,000 to $8,000 bill, because especially now that they've got computers and everything in there, it's no fun. So I just want to make sure y'all don't do that anymore. So let me give you a story real quick, and a story that'll help you to understand where I'm coming from. If you remember the story of the children of Israel, when they were in Egypt. The story, the two main characters, okay? In this story, there's a guy by the name of Moses. He is an illustration of Jesus. Now, if you go back and you look at the Israelites, remember the 6 fears that I told you about? Those 6 fears will all be in the story, all 6 of them, in the story in the book of Exodus. And what happened was they were in slavery, and they had been praying for 400 years, God, get me out of here. And they kept praying, and they're praying, and all of a sudden God says, okay, I'm going to deliver you. Now I've heard your prayers, I'm going to deliver you. And he did. He delivered them out of slavery. But when he delivered them out of slavery, after they had witnessed all of the miracles that God had performed through Moses, they started fear, one after another, after another, after another. Now, let me say this to you. A lot of times when we have fears, there are 2 things that we can do. We can either get hysterical or go historical. Let me say this to you. When a husband and a wife argues, the wife immediately goes historical. Women are smarter. They remember everything. And immediately they can go historical. Men, we play checkers. We try to maneuver the next move. May I say this to you? There is a big difference between the game of checkers and chess. When men, you're in this disagreement and you're playing checkers, you are going to be outmaneuvered because they're playing chess. So may I say to you, get smart and don't argue. You can't win. It's not like Donald Trump. Are you tired of winning? We're just going to keep winning. It ain't going to happen because we have a tendency to kind of forget things, okay? But when the Egyptian army started chasing the Israelites, what did they do? They went hysterical. They started fearing, what are we going to do? Who's chasing us now? They let us go, now they're chasing us. What are we going to do? And what ended up happening was the fear was beginning to overtake their life. So what ends up happening is, have you ever had a GPS and your GPS tells you to make a U-turn immediately? And you're looking and you're thinking, there ain't no road. You want me to make a U-turn right now? Where am I going to go? Through the median? Through somebody's yard? You're listening and you're thinking, well, I can't make a U-turn immediately. Well, that's the same thing that happened with the children of Israel. They're getting out there and all of a sudden, it's like they're saying, God, here's your GPS, and you're telling us to turn around. And God's saying, no, I'm not. I didn't tell you to make a U-turn when you're standing at the river. When you're standing at the sea and you're looking behind you and see the Egyptians, you're looking to the right of you and you're seeing the mountains, you're looking to the left of you and you're seeing the desert, and you're looking in front of you and you're finding water, and you're standing there and you're saying, God, how do we need to make a U-turn because we can't cross this place. And sometimes you need to understand that when they were sitting there saying a U-turn, what was going to end up happening? It was going to take them right back into the teeth of the enemy. Let me say this to you. God's not asking you to make a U-turn. When he's saying trust me, he's saying trust me. And a lot of times what we want to do is while he's saying trust me, we get a fear of what's happening. And what do we want to do? We want to go back. Can I retrace my steps and do this all over again? Let me say this to you all. There are plenty of mistakes that I have made in my life. And a lot of those mistakes I am not proud of. But let me say this to you. With those mistakes that I have made in my life, that makes me the person of who I am today. Even as bad as those mistakes were, I learned from those things so I don't do them again. So why in the world would I want to go back and redo the same mistake that I did before? I hear people all the time, I wish I could go back in my life and change these things. Let me say this to you. If you were to be able to go back into your life and change history, ladies and gentlemen, you would be a miserable person. Because everything that happened in your life was something to grow from. Even the bad mistakes that we made, even the sins that happened in our lives, they make us to understand that God loves us unconditionally. And guess what? God says, you are my creation, and I love you no matter what. I don't care what anybody else says. God says, I love you. Because this is who you are, and I've got a plan for you, even with all of the bad mistakes, even with all the imperfections. I don't want you to make a U-turn and go back there again. I want you to keep going forward and learning from whatever it is. So here's what we do. Exodus 14:4, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them, but I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and all of his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So the Israelites did this. God told them to make a U-turn for his glory and his power. I don't want you going back. I want you going this way. They had already turned, they're going, and God's saying, I want you to go there. I want you to go this way. Because I'm going to take you out of this mess, okay? Have you ever come to a place in your life that you think you have faced a dead end? There's no sense in going in. The problem is we like the through part, not the to part. So what's your dead end? Finances, relationships, a best friend, a son, a daughter, emotional, physical. Let me say this to you. Whatever it is, God didn't cause it. But whatever it is, God wants to allow a teaching moment of whatever that dead end is. He wants us to learn something from it. And here's what you need to understand, that in these situations, ladies and gentlemen, you don't go hysterical. You go historical. Why? Because I need to remember what happened to me back there. Every once in a while, I need to be reminded that if I go back to that spot, if I go back to that personality, if I go back to that moment, God, I was the most miserable person. I've shared with you, I was called to preach at the age of 16, which would have been 1970. I went in the service in 1972 at the age of 18. Started looking for a church. We went to a Southern Baptist church. I didn't like it. We ended up in a Free Will Baptist church. We stayed there for a little while. They don't agree the same thing that we agree, and so we left. Got pushed to go to Germany. Went to Germany in 1978. So 76, I'm sorry, 76. I was 22 years old then. We go there, we find a nice Southern Baptist church because that was the only English-speaking church. So we went for maybe a year, 18 months, if that. Fell out of church, probably in end of 1977, maybe 1978. So we came back to the States in 1980. That's probably about two and a half years. Was out of church till probably about 1981, maybe 81, 82, about 3 years. If you had met me during those periods of time, you would have said, you got to be kidding me. bowled. I loved beer frames. I didn't drink beer. My drink was rum and Coke. So whoever lost, it was expensive, more expensive than a beer. My language was atrocious. I've shared with you before. I worked with my wife, and my wife said, "Don't come around me while I'm working, because I don't want anybody to know that I'm married to you because of the way you speak. Because you're an embarrassment." It wasn't until, I think, 1982. When did your mom die? 82. So it was around 82 that we had gotten back in church. And I haven't been out since. Am I ashamed of what I did back then? Absolutely. Am I thankful for what I did? Yes. You want to know why? Because now I can say I never want to go back there again. Now I can say I know what will happen to me if I get out of church. Now I know what I'm capable of if I walk away from God. Knowing what I'm capable of makes me go historical. May I say this to you? That's one of the things that keeps me where I'm at today. It's because I can know where I can go back to. But God brought me out of that stuff. I was angry. I had a temper and a half. If you walked up to me and ticked me off, I got my mother's wit. I can tell you off in 5 seconds. Can I do that today? Yes, I can. Because that anger still bubbles up every once in a while. And when it does, I have to say, God, shut it down. Control it. You see, am I afraid of going there? No. I'm not afraid of going there because I know it took me out of the and knowing who's keeping me out of there. It isn't me. No. I still have flaws. The good thing about it is that he still loves me, even with the flaws. And knowing that, ladies and gentlemen, is why the fear that I have is the awesomeness and the reverence of God, of knowing who he is. Because I say this to you, don't defy fear or deify it. Don't make it your God. Go historical, not hysterical. Remember where he brought you from so that you never go back there again. Because you need to understand that when you get to the point of going historical, then you can move on. But when you go hysterical, you're stuck. You're stuck. There are times that I have prayed, God, why can't you erase these memories from my life, from my mind? Why don't you ever bring them back up again? Those are the darkest moments of my life. I don't want to go there. And he says, don't you understand this? I was right there with you. I was right there. And not one time did I ever give up on you. Not once. So why do you think that I'm going to give up on you now? So why are you so afraid? And then I realize I'm not afraid. I am blessed. I'm blessed to be loved by somebody that loves me unconditionally. I'm blessed to be loved by somebody who will never give up on me, no matter what. So the fear virus, ladies and gentlemen, there is an inoculation that you can get. There is a vaccine. And may I say this to you? It only takes one shot. His name is Jesus. My question this morning is this. Have you been inoculated with the vaccine against fear? If you haven't, why don't you come and get a shot? I guarantee you, it'll change your life. As we get a song of an invitation, the question is this. Have you ever had the vaccine? Because, may I say this to you, the vaccine that God gives us, ladies and gentlemen, it has antibodies. It's filled with the Holy Spirit. It doesn't just get shot in the arm. May I say this to you? That the moment that you get the vaccine, it immediately goes into your bloodstream. And it flows through every part of your body. Which says, I have antibodies against fear or phobias. The only fear that I know of is the fear of God. That's all I have. And that says, I just love you. I just love you. If you haven't got that vaccine, let's get it this morning. If you have had that vaccine, maybe what you need is just a little booster that says, Lord, you know what? I've watched all of this around me unfold in the uncertainty of everything that's there. And God, I'm letting that control me instead of you controlling me. And God, I need to get rid of those right now. And the only place that I know to get rid of those is to give them to you. I lay them at your feet. God, I need your help. Let's stand, would you?
come today, there's no reason to wait. Jesus is calling. Bring your sorrows and trade them for joy. From the ashes a new life is born. Jesus is calling. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Lord, a Savior, isn't He wonderful? Sing hallelujah, Christ is risen. Bow down before Him, for He is Lord of all. Sing hallelujah, Christ is risen. No, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ.
Y'all may be seated.